Hey everybody, Ms. Dietrich here. We're going to take a look at this cardiology virtual lab that you're going to be assigned. And you're going to be using the website that you see right here to help you answer these questions that are in your Kia account. The website that this is right here, this website, the cardiology lab that's on the Bio Interactive, that website, if you just copy and paste this, see how I have that selected? If you copy and paste that and put that in another browser, it'll open it up for you. So it does say you have an unlimited number of attempts to retake this quiz until you achieve the desired score. I should add that when you hit the submit button on this quiz, it's not going to give you the answers. And the reason why is because I don't want you to find the answers by just taking this once and then, using that as your answer key. I want you to actually learn something, and you won't learn anything if you just use this as your key. You really have to go into the lab. Now, when you go into the lab for the first time, you can go ahead and hit that Launch Interactive. And then when you hit the Launch Interactive, I want to just bring up this button to you, because if you hit Save and Resume, let's say you get started on this and you made some progress and you don't want to have to start over, this button is really important. And if you hit that button, it will ask you to sign into your Google account and you'll choose your school account. So do read that and make sure you understand how to use this lab. Now, if you are in a tablet, I'm not so sure that's going to work. You really should be on a school-issued Chromebook or something that can support some of the graphics that are going to be in here. All right, but if we go to the introduction, you need to read the introduction. But basically, what you're going to be experiencing is, what is it like to be a cardiologist? Because that's something that some of you may actually go into that as a profession. You may choose that. And how nice that you get a chance to see what the daily life of a cardiologist might look like as a middle school student. All right, so you're going to have several patients. And your patients, I want to say you have 3 or 4 patients. So this is the tab that you're going to go to for your patients. And then you're going to have a chance to just jot down some things, take some notes on your patients. And then this quiz right here, when you go through this, the questions that you see in the Kia quiz are pretty similar to what's in here. So when you hit the button on this and you take your guess on one of the questions and you get it wrong, I think it's going to tell you the right answer. So it's at that time when you want to open this up and say, oh, that's the same question as number 2. And then you use that to help you answer this question correctly. Because you may get it wrong in the lab, and that's no big deal. But you want to make sure you take that right answer that they're going to tell you and put it in here, because this is what's going to be scored. All right, so the other thing you should know too is that there's this reference in here. So you have your diagnostic tools guide. It gives you some more of the basic anatomy, the glossary of the cardiology terms that you're going to see in the quiz. So all kinds of goodies in here. You want to open that up and take a look at it. But let's go back to the introduction. All right, so you would want to read all this stuff and make sure your device can support everything that's going on. All right, and then you want to click here once you kind of get familiar with everything, and it's going to bring you, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear everything because, I'm wearing a headset and all the sounds are going to come through on my headset and you're not going to hear it. But here's your exam room, and it does walk you through the steps. So it tells you here that you have to, click on the door to enter the exam room. So here we go. All right, now see these questions here, they're the same questions that you're going to have in this thing, which is the Kia quiz. So you want to have the two things kind of open side by side so that when you make a mistake here, you're not going to make the same mistake in here. All right, so it says, answer the questions. Answers to this quiz, I can't even talk today, can be found by referencing the Diagnostic Tools Guide in the Reference tab. So remember here, reference. And do you see how we have the Diagnostic Tools Guide? You're really going to want to take a look at that, because you're going to have to learn about these different things that you're going to be using. These are different tools that a cardiologist would use to gather information about a patient. So this is the first one that you're going to click on and learn about. And when you read about this, they also give you a chance when you click on it to hear the sounds of it. And you want to learn what those sounds are like, because if you're a cardiologist and you put your stethoscope on, one of the first things you're probably going to do is you're going to listen to the person's heart. So take a listen when you're in the lab. It'll also show you the image of it too. So right here, see how it says, click image to play sound? You want to go through each of these types of problems that a person may have with their heart. So there's this idea of aortic regurgitation. You would want to listen to this, click on it so that you can hear what it sounds like. Because you may have a patient that you say to yourself, hey, you know what? That sounds just like that. Or maybe it's the mitral regurgitation. So have a listen to that. All right, have a listen to all of these things. Now, all the other tools are available down here as well. So once you find yourself in one of the tools, all the other tools are in here as well. So another tool that a cardiologist might use is this idea of doing echo, right? Echo means, you're using sound waves. Cardiography, right? So if you put it all together, then we're talking about doing, sometimes they just call it an echo for short. But you want to read all about it in here, and then you want to look at the images. Now, some of these images you're going to see in the Kia quiz. So you want to make sure you reference here, go here when you're referencing the Kia quiz. So actually, let's take a look at that for a moment. See some of the images that are in here. Let me scroll down. See, these are the same images. So when you get to that and read about it, you want to make sure that you go back to the Kia quiz and take a look at that so that you're answering the question correctly. All right, so you'll go through all this and, actually watch. In some cases, they actually give you some images to look at. So then there's the ECG, electrocardiography, right? ECG. So they actually look at the sinus rhythms of the heart and they're able to graph it. So we talk about it in terms of different waves. There's different parts of the ECG that have a letter assigned to it, because there's the part where the heart repolarizes, we call that, and then there's where the ventricles contract, and then there's when the ventricles, when they contract, the fluid's getting squeezed into the left and the right atrium, and then the whole cycle starts over again. So read through this. The other thing you need to know about is what's an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. So read about it. Some of you may have even had an MRI done, maybe on your leg or something like that. If you're an athlete, you probably have had an injury and maybe you've had that done. So read through this and then look at some of the examples of some MRIs that other doctors have taken of their patients. And if you look here, you can see that they're referencing some of the parts of the heart here in this image. They're referencing it here. So take a close look at that. And you want to compare it when you do the Google quiz. You want to look, number 17, which diagnostic tool was used to create the image? And we should know right now that we're talking about an MRI, right? The answer number 17 is going to be MRI. Now, keep in mind that this 17 might not be your 17 because it does scramble up the questions. All right, so once you're familiar with the different, oops, I'm in the wrong thing here. Let me open this back up. In the wrong thing again. See if I can find it because I lost it. All right, here we are. All right, so once you're familiar with all the different tools, and when we study genetics, we already did talk about pedigrees, so you should know a little bit about pedigrees already, even without reading any of this. But if we scroll down, this should all look familiar. So that idea of, we learned about dominant and recessive, and the idea if somebody has the trait, then we shade it in. And if they don't have the trait, then you would see it not shaded in. And doctors often use these pedigrees to examine, what are the chances of offspring maybe having the same issue that one of the parents have. So if we look at individuals 1 and 2 that got married and they had a daughter, they had a son, they had another son, and they had a daughter. And if you look, see how we have this child of these parents has the condition. So does child number 5, and so does child number 7. So that looks like we're talking about something that's inherited through genetics, this cardiac problem. So read through this. And if we look at another example, there's dominant and then there's recessive. We learned about that when we studied genetics in the cells and heredity unit. So read about this. And once you're done understanding all the different tools that are available to you as a cardiologist, and these are like no joke, these are actually what cardiologists actually use. So here are the tools again at the top. And again, this is in the reference tab. Now, when you're ready to see your patients, right? Here's our first patient. By the way, when you take this quiz, you just answer the questions, submit it, and the answers that will be given to you should help you with the Kia quiz. Now, don't worry about your answers that you get wrong in here. You just want to make sure you get them right in the Kia quiz. All right, so I'm just going to click on submit on that just to see if I can get past it. because it does give you warnings about that. But at any rate, when you do the quiz, so I'm just going to deliberately get them wrong here. All right, but see how it does give you the right answer? See, it does tell you these questions are in the Kia quiz. So even though I didn't really pay attention, and hopefully you wouldn't do the same thing, I really want you to try. I want you to look at the answers that are given and make sure you make a note of that and read this down here. Now, when you're ready to see your patients, so see, this gives you all the thing, view tab and quiz summaries, right? You can click on that. But when you're ready to go back to see your patients, then the patient is waiting for you in the room and they give you the instructions about what to do. We will perform a preliminary stethoscope exam to listen to the patient's heart. Click on the patient to continue. Now, when you click on your stethoscope, right, and you click on the patient, so you're just going to tap on the patient. So here's the information about the patient that you have in front of you. Here's the name, his address, the age, the gender. So all that stuff is available to you. So you would have a listen. Now I'm going to go ahead and click and put the stethoscope, and I'm hearing sounds. You're not able to hear them because I have my headset on, but I can hear the sounds that are being made by the doctor's examination. So you would want to make your conclusion based on what you hear, but you might have to go back to that reference and have a listen to some of the, the tools. You want to have a listen. You want to kind of know, after listening to this person's heart, does it sound like any of these three problems? And if not, then, go back to your patient. And maybe if you can't tell anything by having a listen, then maybe it's time to, do a different task. All right. So keep in mind, if we're ready to go into the echo room, right, then that would be next. You can click on the door and the patient would be the next thing that you would do. But you have to do all the kind of typical things that a cardiologist would do initially upon first examination of a patient. And then you would want to keep going. So some of the other tools that are available, they're going to take the blood pressure of a patient. There's other tools. So poke around in the lab, answer the questions. If you want to save your work, then you have to hit save and resume. You got to click sign in, choose your account. You'll have to scroll down and answer all the questions and say, allow. But if you don't want to do that, then you just have to go through the entire thing and then answer the questions. Otherwise, you'll have to start over. Like if you examined your first patient and you don't save it with your Google account, then you'll be starting over, which is not horrible, but if you don't have to do that, then let's avoid that. All right. So again, I just want to remind you that when you're doing this quiz, if you get questions wrong, it's not going to tell you. It'll tell you your score. Make sure you have this open and this open at the same time. All right. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and good luck doing this activity.